I've said it before and I will say it again and I will continue to repeat it until blue in the face. It doesn't matter how important your research is if nobody reads the papers you write. Now, like any other piece of writing, a scientific manuscript needs to be compelling. It needs to grab the attention of the reader quickly because you want them to read the rest of it. The most immediate way to grasp their attention is a strong, descriptive, punchy title, followed by an engaging abstract. And I've got another short video on the abstract. I don't go into a lot of depth. Perhaps I will have to send you another video soon. But the point of the title and the abstract is to compel the reader to stick with your paper. And if you write an awesome introduction and they read this, you will have a greater degree of success. Now, unlike titles and abstracts, introductions are not subject to tight word constraints. They, however, are the perfect place to invest the reader in your subject matter and to cause them to believe in the value. So, drafting an introduction might appear trivial to some. Please trust me, it is not. And if you use the tips that I'm going to describe in this article, that should make the introduction section as effective and efficient as possible. So the first tip, start big, narrow down. Now, in the United States, English teachers have a pretty standard way of describing the best way to write paragraphs, which is an upside-down pyramid, or more appropriately as a funnel. So from the beginning of to the end, you start broad and end up more focused. So you sharpen the focus from general to specific. And this is how the introduction should function in a paper as well, in a scientific paper. You're taking your topic and placing it in the broader landscape of your subject matter. So how broad do you start? That depends on your intended audience. So lay public, leading experts in the field will need different levels of explanation. Nevertheless, the critical takeaway is to lead with the big picture. For example, say I were studying the effect of a treatment of a specific kind of cancer. I would probably start with an overview of that cancer's nature and behavior and cover things like its prevalence, its aggressivity, its operability. And within that background, with that background already having been discussed, I would then start to hint at treatment techniques and benefits, and limitations, etc., and then I can address the actual study. So that, what I've just described is an example of a line from general to specific. Next tip, keep it relevant, stay on topic. When I say start generally, understand that there are limits to generality. You need to know your audience to be as general as is necessary. This is particularly true if your target journal is going to ask you for a word count for your introduction as well, and there are some. So you want to make every word count. Stay relevant, stay focused. You don't need a complete, exhaustive explanation of your topic, just the most significant aspects of the background. I said in this article, history, providing background. Okay, an overly long introduction can tire your reader out, and they may abandon the paper before they get to your results, to the meat. So to go back to the example that I gave you before, let's talk about things I might avoid. So explaining what cancer is in general is way too broad to start. So if the reader was looking for my paper, chances are they already understand what cancer is, and they don't need a detailed description of sort of the nature of cancer. And similarly, I'm not going to go into the entire history of cancer treatment, even if it's relevant, because it's probably not necessary. I would only talk about the cancer that I'm focusing on and discuss current utilized treatments. So, final tip, establish the rationale, the significance, and a hypothesis. So, the actual study question and why it matters, so critical. This function of your introduction is maybe the most important, but it's also often overlooked. This part of your introduction justifies to the reader why your study is essential and why you did it. It's a natural extension of the upside-down pyramid. Applying this to our example of cancer, this would be the part describing current techniques. After the part describing current techniques, excuse me, I would describe the rationale for my new approach, describe expectations from my study, and explain how the study fills a gap in the current fund of knowledge. So an excellent place to start when writing this portion of the introduction is to ask the following. What is known in the field? What is lacking? What gaps does my study address? What behavior did we expect to see, and how is the behavior examined, just as an example. So all this leads to an hypothesis and how you tested it. Gives the reader context and direction when reading the rest of the study, and keeps them engaged and on track. An elegant way to connect the final sections is to break them into two sentences. Study's objective and action to reach that objective, and this creates a strong connection between the gap filled by this study, the hypothesis, and the testing of that hypothesis. So here are some examples. To confirm this assumption we studied, to address whether X performed better than Y, we did the following, to form better understanding of the problem, etc., etc. Okay, so based on just the tips that I've given in this short video, you should understand the essential structure and purpose of an introduction, and get writing your best possible paper. So start with relevant background, define the detail, define the field of the study, and explain your paper's contribution. Naturally, every paper will be different and should cater to a particular audience. Nevertheless, the basics remain the same. And using these tips and tricks to improve your introductions will help engage your audience and perhaps even read it from start to finish. If you have any questions at all about how to write an excellent introduction, you can contact me, info@libertymedcom.com, and I will be happy to help you.